Hey everybody, in this video we're going to go over one of the most important skills for all of high school physics. It is solving equations using algebra. Solving equations using algebra. If you can't do this, Physics 20 is going to be quite the challenge for you. So let's jump in, let's have a quick review of how to go about doing this. The key is we're solving for a particular variable. Remember, a variable is a letter that represents a number. So I like to think about this in terms of four things that we need to know about, four things that we need to keep in mind. We don't even need to do all four of those things all the time, but we do need to keep them in mind for every single question. So when rearranging equations, the four things we need to keep in mind is the variable that you're trying to solve for needs to be in a numerator position. Variable, if I could spell, in numerator. So in other words, it needs to be on the top. So as an example, 1 divided by t is not the same thing as t. If you want to solve for t, it needs to be in the numerator or t over 1. Cool. So very, very first thing, and that's just something to check. Lots of times it's already going to be in a numerator. Don't need to check too much. Second thing is when you're dealing with order of operations. So I'm sure you're used to BEDMAS for your standard order of operations solving for something. We actually want to use, when we're rearranging equations, we want to use reverse order of operations, or we want to use SAMDEB is what I like to call it. So you see how it's BEDMAS but backwards? SAMDEB. So that means we have to start with addition and subtraction, then move on to multiplication division, then exponents, and then brackets. And there's some sneaky ones in there, so I'll show you an example or two when we get there. So if you're ever wondering about what order to do things in, think SAMDEB. Now, those two things, first two, again, those are kind of like sometimes you'll need to do them, sometimes you won't. These last two things you will always need to do. If you ever want to move something, so you want to move it from one side of the equal sign to the other, or one side of the equation to the other. If you ever want to move something, you have to work in opposite operations. So work in opposites needs to be in opposite operations. What I mean by that is, if you're adding something and you want to move it, well, you would subtract. If you're multiplying, you would divide. If you're squaring, you would square root. So you're always working in opposites anytime you want to move something. And then finally, what you do to one side of the equation, you have to do the exact same thing to the entire other side of the equation. So if you divide one side by pi, you have to divide the other side by pi as well. So same thing, both sides is how I'm going to abbreviate that. So those four things are what we need to keep in mind. So let's jump in. Let's do a couple quick examples together, and then we'll get you going with some practice, and hopefully you're comfortable with this stuff. So we'll start with a real simple one. We'll start with A. We've got 50 is equal to 7.50 times A. Notice that we are not using multiply or divide for any of these. We put our numbers in brackets. If we want to divide things, we just put it on the bottom. Do not use multiply and divide. That's just going to confuse things. It's going to make things messy. Try not to use those at all. Okay, so for this one, let's see. I'm trying to solve for A. I am multiplying A by 7.5. Cool. So my variable that I'm looking at on the right-hand side of the board over here. The variable that I'm looking for is already in a numerator. All right, there's nothing on top of it, so it's in a numerator. It's fine. It's all multiplication division, so I don't need to worry about SAMDEB or order of operations. So I'm just working in opposites and doing the same thing to both sides. So I am multiplying A by 7.5. If I want to get rid of the 7.5, I need to divide by 7.50. Now let's think about that for a second. There we go. 7.5 divided by 7.5. Well, that's equal to 1. What's 1 times A? That's just A. That's how we separate and solve for A. So those two things are going to cancel. Now my last step, what I got is 0.4 on the side over there, is we have to do the exact same thing to both sides. So on the right-hand side of my equation, I just divided by 7.5. So what I need to do on the other side? Well, divide by 7.5. If I could actually divide by 7.50. Perfect. And you'll notice again, we are not using X or the dividing symbol, just dividing, goes on the bottom. I plug this into my calculator. Clear that up. Let's do 50 divided by 7.5. That's 6.666667. I need sig digs. Let's see. The original question had 2 and 3 in my measurements. So I think 2 is my least number. So I want 6.7 as my final answer. It hurts me to the soul not to have units for this, but you know what? We'll get by. We will get by. Okay, where's another good one that we could look at here? So those are fairly straightforward. Let's look at E. Let's check out E. Why not? So I've got negative 6.5524 is equal to D divided by 1.2276. All right, so it's doable. We can work with that. The variable that we're looking for, it is in the numerator. Yes. There's nothing but multiplication division, so I don't need to worry about order of operations. I need to work in opposites. I need to do the same thing to both sides of the equation. And I have a feeling I'm going to run out of space, so I'm just going to rewrite this. Negative 6.5524 is equal to D over 1.2276. So let's see. I am dividing D by 1.2276, working in opposites. Well, I'm dividing by that number. If I multiply by that number, I should be able to move it. 1.2276. Notice no x's or anything for multiplying. What I do to one side, I have to do to the other side. So let's see, put that in brackets. Times it by 1.2276. Excellent. So 1.2276 divided by 1.2276, they cancel out. And I've got D all by itself on that side. I just need to plug this into the old calculator. So 1.2276 times negative 6.5524. Excellent. Apparently that is 8.047 something 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 something. So let's see. Sig digs. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 6 sig digs. Sorry, 5 sig digs all around. So you'll never guess how many we need there. So it's going to be negative 8.0437. 437, and I better double check that. Perfect. Okay, and final answer. Okay, cool. Let's maybe do one more of these ones. Let's check out C. I kind of like F2 though. They're both nice ones. So I'm going to clean this up a little tiny bit. Let's do C, and then we'll see what time looks like. Maybe we'll do F as well. So C, this one, you know what I like about this one? Why I like C is because T is on the bottom. And I don't like T being in my denominator on the bottom. Ugh, gross. What I want to do is I want to move that up to the top. So I'm going to rewrite this so I got a bit more space to work. Negative 3.5 is equal to negative 28.0 divided by T. So the only way to move T up to the top is to multiply both sides by T, because I'm dividing and I'm working in opposites. You'll notice it's the same thing that we're doing every time. So I'm dividing by T. The only way to move it up to the top is to multiply both sides of the equation by T. There we go. Very, very good. Very, very nice. Oh, forgot a close bracket. Excellent. Now, T's got a numerical value. I don't know what that is quite yet, but T's got a numerical value. No matter what it is, if T is 5, 5 divided by 5 is 1. Cancels out. If T's a million divided by a million cancels out and equals 1. So T divided by T cancels. Now I've got T on the top. I've got T multiplied by negative 3.5. Working in opposites, I want to divide by negative 3.5, and I want to do that on both sides, so that negative 3.5 cancels with negative 3.5, and T is going to be equal to negative 28 divided by negative 3.5. I'm going to put that in brackets to be a little bit clearer. So negative 28 divided by negative 3.5. Let's see. Oh, that's nice. 8. Is that a good final answer, though? Let's think about that for a second. What are we missing? Significant digits. So we got 2 versus 3. I'm going to go with 2, always the lowest number. So T is equal to 8.0. Nice. Cool. F I like just because it's a little tiny bit more challenging. It's got a squared in it. That's all it's really got. So I'm going to rewrite it again. So I've got 520 is going to be equal to 1 over 2. I'm going to put that as 1 over 2 times m times 4.5 squared. Cool, okay. So let's see, I'm looking for m. I'm multiplying it by 1/2. So if I want to get rid of that, I need to divide it by 1/2. You might remember keep, change, flip from grade 8. I don't actually know if it's grade 8, but instead I'm going to multiply that by 2 over 1. So multiply by the reciprocal. So multiply this by 2, divide it by 1. The 2 is going to cancel. The 1 sort of cancels, I guess. So cool, better put brackets around. Very, very nice. And then now let's see, I've got m times 4.5 squared. If I wanted to get like m by itself, well, I'm multiplying it by 4.5 squared. Well, I could divide both sides by 4.5 squared. And I get m all by itself. I got a little bit of a mess here. If I was actually doing this like showing off on a question to my teacher who's marking me, I might rewrite it with m is equal to everything else. But let's see. For now, because I'm just about out of space, I've got 2 times 520 divided by 4.5 squared. Good, good. Double check the calculator. 51.358. Let's see. I think I need 3 sig digs. So 51.4 would be my answer for M. Cool. Okay, we'll just do 2 more here. A little bit more challenging because they have a lot more going on inside of them. So this next one, this example right here, gives us a nice little hint. And this is a good way to do things. As you're going through physics, most of these numbers will actually be variables, so they'll be represented by letters. And you might even recognize some of this stuff from Science 10, like it's a kinetic energy formula, gravitational potential energy formula. You might remember. If you don't worry about it too much. We'll get to that eventually. But you can rearrange using just the letters. A lot of times, it's easier to plug the numbers in for those variables and then simplify as much as possible. And that's what we want to do here. Rather than going through and trying to, deal with this entire gigantic thing, let's simplify it as much as we possibly can. So, where's the calculator? I'm going to simplify this first term right here. Calculator's gone again. So I've got 1 divided by 2 times 5 times 4 squared. That's that entire first term. So this is going to simplify to be 40. Isn't that much easier to deal with? Just so much easier to deal with. Okay, and then let's see. The next term that I see up there, I've got 1 times 9.81. I guess I didn't really need to multiply by 1, but whatever. Times 2. This is going to simplify to be 19.62. And then let's see with this one, I'm going to simplify this one as much as I possibly can as well. So let's see, 1 over 2, 1 divided by 2 times 5. That's about all I can really do there. That's 2.5 v squared. Awesome. Okay. Now, this looks way easier. Like, that is so much easier to deal with right now. Okay, so things I got to think about. Let's go way back up to here. The variable that I'm looking for is an enumerator. Nice. SAMDEB, or order of operations. Okay, I think I do need to think about that, right? Because I've got addition, I've got squaring, and I've got multiplication. So I really need to think about that. So I'm even going to put this off to the side here. SAMDEB, or reverse bedmass. Cool. So, going through, looks like addition and subtraction is what I need to do first. So I'm going to subtract 19.62 from both sides of the equation. Now this is kind of a mess. I'm going to cross this out just because I'm out of space. We'll get that back in a minute because we're going to do that example. So let's see. 40 minus 19.62 is going to be equal to 2.5 v squared. And I did something pretty important there. Pretty important. Over here, it kind of looks like a fraction. I really don't like that. So whatever you do, don't put a line in the middle, and then rewrite it so it's all on one line there. Okay, so this is pretty easy. We could even simplify this a little bit more if we wanted to. I might leave it till the end. Next, I have to deal with multiplication and division. So I've got v squared. There we go. V squared times 2.5. So if I want to get rid of the 2.5, well, I divide this side of the equation by 2.5. I have to divide this entire side of the equation by 2.5. So this whole thing, it's as if this is in brackets. So we can either just put a line across the entire thing, or we could actually put it in brackets. Cool. And now let's see. V squared. Well, that's not the same as V, so how do I get rid of the squared? Oh yeah, working opposites. Take the square root of both sides of the equation. Cool, so let's plug this into our calculators. Where'd that go? Clear that up. So I've got 40 minus 19.62. Excellent, so that's 20.38. I'm going to divide that by 2.5. Cool, and then I'm going to take the square root. So doing this, I push second function squared, which is right above your log button or just up from your 7. And then I'm going to do second function answer, which is the negative button. And that works out to be 2.85517 something something something. I need 2 sig digs, so it's going to work out to be 2.9 with significant digits. Nice. Okay. Good stuff. Good stuff. So a little bit trickier, but still totally doable. Let's do one more example here, and then see where you're at. You might need to do some practice. Make sure you're good at this, though. That's all I really need, right? Is got to be good to go. Okay. So the variable with this one, okay, this one's a bit of a trick because it's got that line that covers everything. I'll show you. So I got negative 4.0 is equal to negative 2.5 plus v over 5. Now here's the thing that we've got here. This line says it's 2.5 plus v, and then that entire thing is being divided by 5. So everything on top of that line is being divided by 5. So it's as if this is in brackets. So if you ever see that, you can put that in brackets. And then we can think about our order of operation. SAMDEB, same sort of thing. The addition and subtraction looks like it should come first, but really it's inside of the brackets, and you can't mess around with what's inside of the brackets until dead last. So everything on the top is being divided by 5. Well, to get rid of the 5, I'm going to multiply both sides of the equation by 5. Cool. Okay, so that's gone. Now, I'm just going to rewrite this. I've got 5 times negative 4 is going to be equal to negative 2.5 plus v. Now we've essentially got rid of everything from around the brackets. We can deal with what's inside of the brackets. So I've got negative 2.5 plus v. It's kind of like saying minus 2.5. So what we could do is we could add 2.5 to both sides of the equation. Now I just told you that I don't really like having it on 2 separate lines. So let's rewrite this. I've got 5 times negative 4 plus 2.5 is equal to v, and I think we can go ahead and solve from there. I'm not even going to use a calculator. It's going to be, oh, I might have spoke too soon. Negative 20 minus 2.5, that should be, or sorry, negative 20 plus 2.5 should be negative 17.5. I'm a little slow with my mental math today. Negative 17.5. Oh, sig digs. We didn't really do sig digs either, though. So I think, cross that off, negative 18 is our best answer there. Nice. Okay, perfect. So there's a couple of things to practice here. Remember those 4 things, right? That's sort of what we're going for. Anyways, that is it for now.